Good evening, Knicks fans. Thank you guys for watching once again. I really love for you guys to hit the subscribe button and also give me a thumbs up button for this video. I wanted to talk about three-point shooting and the New York Knicks. The reason why I want to do it, I'll talk about it is because something we really struggle with. I want to start off by talking about the evolution of my beliefs on three-point shooting. And originally, a few years ago, I thought that three-point shooting didn't really matter and didn't really affect how, like what didn't impact the team's ability to win ball games. And so, 2017, 2018, I tested the relationship between the percentages for the league, for all the teams in the league, versus their win percentage. And I think the correlation score that I got was like 0.36 or something like that. And so, of course, I thought, there's no relationship here. There is no relationship. So I didn't understand why everybody was making such a big deal about it. But the real truth was it was actually not the truth, but the issue with the analysis that I did was the fact that I only took, I think it was like a 30 game sample. The season wasn't over. I didn't look at previous seasons. I just looked at the current season and took the 30 games that all the teams played, and I just tested it from there. And so that's how I got out with that correlation score. And then about a year later, I decided to look further into it. At this point, I basically decided to go all the way back and do the same thing for every season, going back to 95, 96 season. So I went for 95, 96 all the way to 2019, 2018, 2019 season. And so what I did after I got the correlation score for each of the seasons, I plotted it on this graph here on the top left hand corner. And so as you can see, I put a trend line straight through it, and it does look like the graph that I plotted does seem to suggest that um, well, although the correlation scores are pretty low, have the correlation scores are low, and there's no significant relationship between three-point shooting and winning percentage. However, it does show that like there's kind of like an upward trend, and so that's kind of suggests that teams are understanding how to use three-point shooting a lot more effectively, and so in turn, it's starting to have an impact in their winning percentage. And so that's kind of how like that is my explanation of seeing basically, as you see, like I said, there's a trend line that's going up for the correlation score. So it seems to suggest that the relationship between the three-point percentages and team winning percentages has been getting better from one year to the next. And so, of course, that made me think about my New York Knicks, right? And so I'm thinking, like, okay, how well do the Knicks shoot from the three-point line? I know they're not very good at it, but I pulled the number. So I pulled the percentage from 2019-2020 season. And of course, we were 33.7%. First thing right off the back that I realized was uh, the league average was 35.8%. So the Knicks were a whole 2 percentage points below the league average. And so that meant we were essentially 26 out of 30 teams. There was only three other teams that were worse than the Knicks were at shooting three-pointers. That was the Atlanta Hawks, Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Golden State Warriors. And of course, the Golden State Warriors were without their two best three-point shooters in Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. And so that's why they were at the bottom of the league. And so now, obviously, we're thinking like, okay, why are the Knicks so bad at shooting three-pointers, right? And so it makes you think about like, okay, it's got to be the players and maybe some coaching issues as well. So I know last year we won a shooting and a team. The front office did go out to get some shooting, and so that was very important, right? And so let's see who we had on the team last year, who our best three-point shooters were last year. And so our top three-point shooters from 2019-2020 season was Ellington, Dotson, and Reggie Bullock. And so what I did was I took all their three-point percentages for every game and I plotted it on this on a graph here. And so the first thing you notice is there's a lot of gaps between the data points, right? And so where you see these big gaps, where you see these gaps, these are essentially DNPs. So those are games that they didn't play. Ellington, I'm pretty sure I don't remember Ellington being injured last year, so he was available for most of the season, I think. And same thing for Dotson. Dotson was essentially available for the majority of the season. So even if you say like, okay, he started really playing November around November 11th, still you could still see gaps. Play like where he racked up DNPs um, like from December to January. So he went a stretch from December to January where he didn't play. Same thing from January. Like it looks like from the 15th to the 30th he didn't play. And then it looked like maybe he didn't play again from February 2nd or 3rd to like maybe February 19th. And then he didn't play after like, looks like maybe February 22nd. He didn't play for the rest of the season. And and if you look at Reggie Bullock is at the bottom, at least he had a little more consistent playing time, and so he was injured half the season. But when he did come in, it looks like he did receive playing time. It doesn't look like he had any DMPs after he started playing. Maybe he had a couple, but the graph doesn't seem to show that here. Actually, this one long stretch between February and March, it looks like that's a DMP. So and so it looks like the issue with these guys were obviously you're a professional, you should be ready at all times. However, it looks like coaching was an issue. It looks like the coaches, neither Fizdale or Mike Miller, basically found someone they could stick with. So essentially, they should have been able to make a decision on who they wanted to play out of these three guys. Not saying you bench like 2 out of 3. Maybe it could be you could play 2 out of 3. So, in my opinion, they probably should have put a little more faith in Dotson and played him more. Um, or maybe, in my opinion, that's what they should have done. And because Dotson was a pretty consistent shooter. However, I do think the issue was more with the coaching because all these players, aside from Dotson, let's put Dotson to the side. Ellington and Reggie Bullock, they're normally like 40% 3-point shooters, and so they've they've basically so they have the reputation for being shooters. So what obviously what makes me think that the issue is with the coach is because the guys they do have a reputation for being able to shoot from the 3-point range, and they've done it in the past. And so it just so happened they came to the Knicks, and all of a sudden they forgot how to shoot. And so I think it's more of an issue with the coaching and committing to players to play. And also, I've heard a lot of these NBA players say being able to understand your role in the team and being able to know that you're going to have consistent minutes allows you to know how to practice and how to prepare for the games. And so if you don't know that you're going to play or when you're going to play, you're not going to really know how to prepare for the games. And so essentially, yep, I'm blaming the coach, both Fizdale and Mike Miller, for the issues with the shooting. And of course, I'm sure poor scheming had a lot to do with it, but it looks like it was essentially not being able to commit to any one of these players and playing them regularly. So I wanted to take a look at a player who got consistent minutes, who's known as a good 3-point shooter, is Joe Harris. If you look at Joe Harris, I plotted his percentages for the whole season, and you don't have any gaps. He essentially played all the games. He didn't get any DNPs, and so the coaches know he's a good shooter, and so they commit to him and they don't pull him, because he had a bad game. If you look, so he started off well at the beginning of the season, and then halfway, it looks like before even we hit December, he kind of hit the skids a little bit. He had like a few games where he struggled, right? So it looks like maybe one, two, three, four. There's like a 5 game stretch where he shot, um, I think 3 or 4 out of the 5 games. Like it looks like 4 out of the 5 games he shot below 30%. Um, that didn't cause the coaches to waver. They continued to play him. They didn't move away from him and give him a DNP and play someone else. They actually continued to play him. And so that was extremely important. So this is what, uh, the the percentages graphed out, this is what it looks like for a dependable, consistent, 3-point shooter looks like. And Joe Harris is the player that we're looking at here. So the next person I wanted to take a look at is someone that we do have on our team, who we think is going to be a consistent 3-point shooter, and that is Emmanuel Quickly. And so Emmanuel Quickly, this is his percentages from the last year that he played at Kentucky. And so I graphed it out, and if you look, he shot for the most part. He shot between, mostly shot between. It looks like high 20s and 60%. That's what the range is, and so um, it looks like over. I'm just guessing here from the looks of the chart, but over 60% of the games that he played, he shot above 35%. And so it looks like, he's a very consistent, dependable shooter. He definitely was when he was in college, and if he continues to work hard, I think that will translate in the league as well. I think he will continue to shoot well in the league if he continues to work hard and get more comfortable. And so this is basically so his graph is not exactly identical to Joe Harris, but it is a little similar. He only had 2 games throughout, last season where he went over, and I think it looks like he played at least, I would assume he played at least 25 games last year. I didn't count the number of games that he played, but he played at least 25 games last season in the NCAA. But again, the whole idea, I do want to repeat my point, is like when he was in college, he got consistent minutes, and so he got consistent minutes. He wasn't pulled. He didn't get any DNP, so you're not going to see the breaks in the graphs here, where and so because of that, uh, he was a consistent shooter, and I think this continues if Thibodeau decides to play in consistent minutes instead of have him like rack up DNPs. Excuse me. So the other shooter we have on our team is Alec Burke, and so if we take a look here, Alec Burke, this is his percentages graphed from 2019 for the 2019-2020 season. He did have a few DNPs, but that's because I think he played it for 2 different teams last year. No, I think he started off the season playing for the Golden State Warriors, and then he also played for the Sixers. Although he got a few DNPs, he was fairly consistent. But when he was, for example, in the beginning, when he first started with the Warriors, he didn't get much playing time in the beginning. He did have a few DNPs in the beginning, but then once the Golden State Warriors started to play him, he did get consistent playing time with the Warriors. And as you can see, his percentages basically ended up improving. And so again, it's extremely important, in my opinion, to make sure we give him also consistent minutes if we want to see him do well, and obviously if we want to see the team do well and have better floor space. And if Thibodeau decides to commit to Alec Burks, he has to make sure to give Alec Burks consistent minutes and consistent play time. So now I wanted to take a trip back to 2018-2019 season because I wanted to take a look at Alec Burks' his percentages for 2018-2019 graphed out. He shot 34%, so he didn't shoot that great that year either. But for most of his career, he's shot usually around 40%. So he is a very consistent shooter. And so this season, as you can see, he did get quite a few DNPs, so that may have affected his percentages shooting at the time then. So this is Steph Curry's percentages graphed out for 2019 for the 2018-2019 season. And as you can see here, he had quite a few DNPs early in the year, but as once he came back, he basically he was a consistent shooter. So this is what uh, the graph of his percentages look like. This guy, he's the best probably to ever do it as far as shooting from the 3-point line, 3-point range. He played 69 games, and in the 69 games that he played, so this suggests that about 82% of I'm sorry, that's wrong to think about it that way. It's not 100 games that he played. But anyway, he played 69 games. 30%, he shot below 30% in 15 games, shot below 20% in only 3 games, and only in those 3 games, one of the 3 games he went 0 for. And so the whole point I'm trying to make is we need to commit to whoever we want to be our floor spacer. We have to commit to that person, and we have to play that person and give them consistent minutes. We have to give them the time. I would say at least give the person at least to give them at least 10 games. Now I get it if after 15 games, if the player is still like laying shit, shitting on the court, and not making any threes, then I can understand moving on and trying someone else. If after 15 games, someone is just still atrocious, so I understand that. But the whole point is to make sure we give the guys consistent minutes. Um, and if we give them consistent minutes, I do believe that they're going to basically come through and they will start making their shots. And that's essentially what I had to say as far as the Knicks and 3-point shooting and how they can improve 3-point shooting.